If you're a communist, get on my video and seek professional help. But if you're a normal human being, then welcome to the show. I will start with a few simple statements that I think we can all agree upon. History is written by the victor. History is a set of lies that we agree upon. He who controls the past controls the future. He who controls the present controls the past. George Orwell, 1984. Now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about a figure who was vilified by history, who was downright demonized during his lifetime, a tragic figure who met a tragic end. I'm of course talking about Adolf... Got you there, didn't I? No, I'm of course talking about Joe McCarthy, and I'm here to talk about him, his life, his accomplishments, and how right he was about the massive communist influence inside USA's political system, inside Hollywood, inside trade unions, and of course the reason why his career ended inside the US Army. Those aspects are more relevant in 2024 than ever. The official story is that Joseph Raymond McCarthy was a demagogue, an unhinged brute who took advantage of the Red Scare after the end of World War II, an opportunistic hog that wanted to make a name for himself by attacking honest Americans that leaned a little to the left of the political spectrum, and pointing out there were foreign agents just to destroy their lives of honest American workers. An opportunistic drunk senator that started a witch hunt because he had nothing better to do than to harass poor leftists in Hollywood, in the media and the government. That would be the story you were told in school perhaps, or what some shitty Hollywood movies you might have seen told you. But the reality is that Joseph Raymond McCarthy was a World War II veteran in the Marine Corps who raised to the rank of Lieutenant Colonel, seen heavy combat during the war, where he acquired the nickname that later his political opponents used to mock him, and that was Tail Gunner Joe. I'm into the sky, never wonder why. Tail Gunner, you a tail gunner. You call that mocking? Bro, that's the coolest nickname I've ever heard! You know, this is the problem with leftists and communists in general. They portray their enemies so cool, it's hard not to root for them. Anyway, I digress. After the end of the war, he became a senator and quickly rose to fame and became a very popular figure with the Republican Party, the public at large, and very popular with the then President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Now, let's evaluate his accomplishments during his life as a senator and how he named the communists. Sorry, force of habit. McCarthy had his first great catch in the late 1950 when he, with the help of the FBI, caught two Soviet spies that stole top secret US government plans for radar technology, sonar technology, jet propulsion engines, and the hydrogen bomb that they later sold to the Soviet Union. Those two spies were none other than Julius Rosenberg and Ethel Rosenberg. Real name Ethel Greenglass. Why am I not surprised? What did McCarthy do? Had the Rosenbergs executed. I mean, fuck it, I can end the video right here. Bro, McCarthy was beyond Based! Under the Smith Act trials, McCarthy, with the help of J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI, back when the FBI actually helped the people and not policed their thoughts, gathered and compiled a list of more than 200,000 people with communist affiliations, and they investigated more than 80 organizations that were deemed to be subversive. After the end of the trials, the Communist Party USA was virtually dismantled, and most of their leaders and affiliates were imprisoned. And of course, who can forget about the infamous Hollywood blacklist from the mid-20th century, where McCarthy accurately pointed out many communist sympathizers and outright openly communist writers, directors, and actors inside Hollywood. And of course, like in traditional Hollywood fashion, they played the victim, as always, and rewrote history, as they always do, through their movies, acting like it was some sort of Hollywood hearing, when in reality, that hearing never happened. No matter what Woody Allen, George Clooney, or that piece of third commie propaganda movie Trumbo starring Bolshevik Cranston wants you to think. Were there communists inside Hollywood? I mean, is the sky blue? Let's see a little list of Hollywood movies directly funded by the Communist Party USA. Grapes of Wrath, High Noon, Roman Holiday, The Salt of the Earth, The Robe, every Jane Fonda movie ever, every Henry Fonda movie ever, minus Once Upon a Time in the West. That film is a goddamn masterpiece by Sergio Leone. Fun fact, almost all Disney animators and cartoonists were members of the Communist Party USA. And of course, like all syndicalists, they went on strike for 3 months in the early 40s. What did Walt Disney do? Fire their asses, since Walt Disney was a staunch anti-communist. Based as fuck! But, like most good things have an end, so did McCarthy's career had to end in 1954, when he bit more than he could chew, when he turned his attention towards the US Army and accused some military officers of communist ties. Some US senators said enough is enough, McCarthy, and convinced the president Dwight D. Eisenhower to intervene quietly, Eisenhower, being a gullible boomer before boomers were even a thing, took the bait, being soft on the army, and threw McCarthy under the bus. On mid-1954, when the Army versus McCarthy hearings were in full swing, they made a smear campaign to discredit McCarthy, portray him as a drunk, power-hungry madman. Even though he was absolutely right, the infamous "Don't you have any decency" speech sealed McCarthy's fate, and his public approval ratings dropped harder than the IDF drops bombs on children in Gaza. Right, baby? McCarthy being humiliated on live public TV because he didn't have enough evidence to back up his accusations against those military officers, had his career virtually destroyed by how the media portrayed him. Even though he was 100% right, McCarthy became a heavy alcoholic, became addicted to morphine, and lived his last 3 years in shame and solitude, dying too early at the age of 48 years old on May 2nd, 1957. Many people at that time suspected foul play. Bad mouth said because he drank 5 bottles of whiskey a day. But the autopsy reports showed that he developed undiagnosed hepatitis in his last years. Ah yes, the media! Destroying careers and perpetuating lies since forever. But luckily, thanks to the power of good, thanks to the internet, thanks to real evidence proving McCarthy's case, and thanks to this man, Medford Stanton Evans, when he published the book entitled Blacklisted by History, the untold story of Senator Joe McCarthy and his fight against America's enemies. The truth prevailed when he brought to the public eye irrefutable evidence proving McCarthy's innocence, proving that McCarthy was right about everything and everyone he accused of communist ties, and proving how corrupt the US government really is and how subverted from within by the Soviet international agents the US government is. Now I wanna explain some aspects. The communist subversion has evolved throughout the last 5-6 decades or so into this foul Frankenstein that has become the Western world. It is not about economical destabilization of the Western world to push them into the direction to adopt a socialist or a communist economical system. No, it is about pure destruction. The destruction of balance, the family unit, well-established traditions, religion, gender roles, normalcy, national identity, national sovereignty, racial identity, individual identity, creating political divide, creating this false sense of democracy and the illusion of choice, and of course the destruction of Christianity and the church. I'm not gonna name names because I wanna be monetized in the future, but if you watched this video until now, you are way smarter than 90% of the world, and you probably know. You have to realize that those Soviet foreign agents now have no masters and they don't answer to anyone and they have free reign to do what they want. Now, with that schizo rant out of the way, let's see some current examples of how Joseph Raymond McCarthy was right about the Soviet influence. Spoiler alert! There were way many more subverters than he previously anticipated. Let's start with the most important one, the education system or academia. All those college professors that are openly Marxists, socialists, and communists who teach the younger generation to hate America, to hate the West, brainwashes them to make them think that the white people of North America and white people of Europe, including Anglo-Saxons, Germanic people, Slavic people, Scandinavian people, Spaniards, Portuguese, even Greeks are the oppressors. That list of college professors is so big, I will need 8 hours to name everyone, so we'll move on. Now let's look at the army. Was McCarthy right about being communist influence inside the US Army? Well, when the current Chief of Staff of the United States Army and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Alexander Milley, is openly describing himself as a Marxist, you know USA is deeply subverted. When you have army ads like this foul abomination.
It begins in California with a little girl raised by 2 moms.
Oh my god, I think I'm gonna be sick.
Although I had a fairly typical childhood, took ballet, played violin, I also marched for equality.
Go watch the whole thing. You will vomit, cringe, and maybe have a stroke after you watch the whole thing. This plot is to weaken America and to weaken Europe. Look at AOC, Bernie Sanders, and in Europe, Keir Starmer, Olaf Scholz, Ursula von der Leyen, and all those politicians that push for total reform of the system that suit a socialist economical system, and push for the abolishment of private property and to turn USA and the European Union into a huge welfare state. You know what? I actually agree. McCarthy did something wrong. You know what's that? He stopped! In the immortal words of General Patton, which he stated not 6 months before his sudden death. Oh, yeah, right. Gentlemen, I have come this morning to the inexcusable conclusion that we have fought on the wrong side. This entire war we should have fought with the fascists against the communists and not the other way around. I fear that perhaps in 50 years, America will pay a dear price and become a land of corruption and degenerate morals. Ha! You can say that again, pal. Oh wait, you can't because you're dead. But not to worry, General Patton. I will right those wrongs and make a video about you someday in the future. I promise you that. What else was McCarthy right about? Oh yeah, Hollywood! Wonder why in every single Hollywood movie they push the multicultural agenda, the LGBT agenda, the inclusivity agenda, the diversity agenda, communist subversion, and of course ESG scores established by our beloved friend Larry Finkelberg. Check out the video I made about him after you finish this video, of course. This is a statement that you should never give in to peer pressure because the trends are changing or the society is changing. Because figures like Joe McCarthy or Yuri Bezmenov, a figure I made a whole video dedicated about him, check it out after you watch this. Those two were considered conspiracy theorists during their lifetime. But later, only a gullible low IQ individual would say that they weren't right about everything. And now I'm gonna say the following statement, and surely I will repeat it, but I don't care. I will repeat it until you understand it. The term conspiracy theorist is just a term used to silence any dissenting voice to the established narrative that the masses follow. Conspiracy theorist is a term used by individuals who can't comprehend the complex nature of political, social, and cultural, and of course historical events, and used by gullible people who take life at face value. Nothing, and I mean nothing, is exempt from scrutiny. Not public figures, not news, not history, certainly not politicians. Bottom line of this video is, don't believe what the authority figures tell you to believe, and question everything you think it smells fishy. Oh, and of course, don't be a communist!
Subscribe, you silly Billy!